What if Harry Potter accidentally created a Horcrux of his own while fighting Voldemort? Chapter 1. The shadow within Harry Potter woke up with his wand in his hand, pointing at the ceiling, and absolutely no memory of how he'd gotten there. His bedroom at Grimmauld Place swam into focus as his eyes adjusted to the darkness. Sweat soaked through his t-shirt despite the cool autumn air drifting through the half-open window. "Shit," he muttered, lowering his wand and sitting up. Third time this week. The clock on his bedside table read 3:17 a.m. Harry ran a hand through his hair, which stuck up even more than usual. His scar hadn't hurt in years, not since Voldemort's death, but he found himself touching it anyway, a habit he couldn't seem to break. "Lumos," he whispered, and the tip of his wand ignited with blinding intensity, far brighter than he'd intended. Harry winced and quickly modified the spell. Weird. He slipped out of bed and padded across the room, wand extended. Something felt off. The air tingled with residual magic, the kind he'd learned to detect during aura training. Harry closed his eyes and focused, feeling the familiar electric prickle across his skin. Someone had cast powerful magic in his bedroom. Recently. But the wards were intact, and he lived alone now that Ron had moved in with Hermione. That left only one suspect, himself. Harry moved toward his dresser where a small compact mirror lay, a communication device the Aurors used, modeled after Sirius's gift but enhanced with ministry enchantments. He tapped it twice. "Ron," he called softly. After a moment, the glass swirled and his best friend's face appeared, eyes barely open, red hair sticking out at absurd angles. "Mate, it's the middle of the bloody night," Ron groaned. "Someone better be dead." "I did it again," Harry said. "Woke up with my wand out. Magic residue everywhere." Ron's expression sobered immediately. "That's 4 times now, isn't it?" "3. I think." Harry hesitated. "Did I call you earlier tonight?" "No." Ron was fully awake now. "You're missing time again." "Maybe." Harry didn't want to admit how frightening this was becoming. "Listen, I know we've got that smuggling case in the morning, but I need to check something first. Meet me at headquarters an hour early?" "Yeah, course." Ron yawned. "Want me to bring Hermione?" "She's been researching your episodes." Harry considered this. "Not yet. Let's see what we find first." After ending the call, Harry performed a careful magical scan of his bedroom. The residue was strongest near the window. Whatever spell he'd cast had been directed outside. He pushed the window fully open and leaned out, searching the street below. Nothing seemed amiss on Grimmauld Place, but Harry's instincts screamed that something was wrong. He'd been an Auror for 3 years now, and he trusted those instincts. He dressed quickly, grabbed his invisibility cloak, and headed out. "You look like hell," Ron commented, handing Harry a steaming cup of coffee in the Auror headquarters. The ministry was quiet this early, with only a few dedicated employees shuffling through the atrium when Harry had arrived. "Spent 2 hours searching my neighborhood," Harry said, taking a grateful sip. "Found nothing." "Nothing at all." "Well." Harry lowered his voice. "Magical residue in a pattern leading away from my house. Like someone was casting spells while walking. Ended at the apparition point 3 blocks over." Ron's brow furrowed. "You think you went somewhere?" "While, you know." He made a vague gesture. "While sleepwalking?" "Yeah." Harry rubbed his eyes under his glasses. "I need to see the incident map. The one tracking those weird magical outbursts we've been investigating." They moved to the large enchanted map covering one wall of the Auror office. Small red dots pulsed at various locations across London, sites of unexplained magical activity they'd been monitoring for weeks. Most were minor violations, magic performed in Muggle areas or spells with unusual signatures that didn't quite match known wizards. Harry studied the most recent incidents. "There," he pointed. "Last night, Hackney, 1:46 a.m. That's during my blackout. Could be coincidence, Ron said, but he didn't sound convinced. Let's check it out before Robards assigns us elsewhere. Harry drained his coffee. We've got time. 20 minutes later, they appeared in an alley in Hackney, dressed in Muggle clothes, jeans and hoodies that wouldn't attract attention in the working-class neighborhood. Dawn was just breaking, painting the cloudy sky in muted oranges and grays. Detection spell shows residue this way, Harry muttered, following the invisible trail only their trained senses could detect. They walked 2 blocks to a small park wedged between apartment buildings. The magical signature grew stronger near a cluster of trees. Harry felt a chill as they approached, not from the morning air, but from recognition. The magical residue felt familiar. Too familiar. Harry. Ron's voice was tense. This magic, it's yours. I know. Harry knelt, examining scorched grass in a perfect circle. But I don't remember coming here. And this spell, he traced the burn pattern, isn't anything I know. It's dark, Ron whispered. Really dark. Like the stuff we found at those other scenes. Harry nodded grimly. For weeks, they'd been tracking bizarre magical incidents across London, scorch marks, strange apparitions, disturbances in the fabric of magic itself. The Department of Mysteries had gotten involved, claiming the magic had unusual properties they wanted to study. We need to bring Hermione in, Harry said finally. This is the 3rd scene that matches my episodes. Ron looked around nervously. You think you're causing these? How? Why? I don't know. Harry snapped, then immediately regretted it. Sorry. I'm just scared, Ron finished. Yeah, me too, mate. Harry took out a small crystal vial and collected traces of the magical residue. Standard Auror procedure, but this time it felt different. He was collecting evidence against himself. Let's go see Hermione before work, Harry decided. She's been researching magical blackouts since this started. Hermione's office in the Department of Magical Law Enforcement was already occupied despite the early hour. Books, scrolls, and magical instruments covered every surface. She looked up when they entered, hair pulled back in a messy bun, quill behind her ear. You've had another episode, she said immediately, taking in Harry's exhausted face. How'd you know? Ron asked, closing the door behind them. Because he looks terrible, and you both came here instead of going straight to Robards for your assignment. She stood and cleared space on her desk. What happened? Harry placed the vial of magical residue on her desk. I woke up at 3 a.m. with my wand out. Magical residue all over my room. And we found this at a scene in Hackney from last night, when I was blacked out. Hermione performed a quick analysis spell on the vial. Her expression grew concerned as purple swirls rose from the sample. This is definitely your magical signature, Harry, but... She frowned. It's distorted somehow. Almost like there's an echo in it. An echo? Harry repeated. Like your magic, but, not quite. She performed another spell, and the purple swirls separated into 2 distinct shades, one bright and clear, one darker and hazy. See? This lighter signature is your normal magic. The darker one is similar but different. Different how? Ron asked. I need more time to analyze it properly, Hermione said. But based on my research into your symptoms. She hesitated, looking uncomfortable. Just tell me, Harry said. I think you might be experiencing magical dissociation. She grabbed a heavy tome from a stack and opened it. It's rare, but documented. A wizard's magical core can sometimes develop a secondary pattern, almost like a separate magical identity. Like multiple personalities? Harry asked skeptically. Not exactly. More like, a fragment of your magic acting independently. She bit her lip. Harry, when did these episodes start? Harry thought back. About 2 months ago. Right after that raid on the cursed artifacts dealer in Nocturne Alley. Did you touch anything unusual? Get hit with any spells? No, Harry began, then stopped. Wait. There was that strange backlash when we broke through his wards. Felt like something shifted inside me. But the healers checked me over afterward. Said I was fine. Hermione made a note. Standard medical scans wouldn't detect this. I need to try something else. She stood, closed her office door, and cast several privacy charms. Take off your shirt. Ron raised his eyebrows but said nothing as Harry complied, removing his aura robes and t-shirt. Hermione traced a complex pattern with her wand while muttering an incantation that sounded vaguely Arabic. Golden light emerged from her wand, surrounding Harry's torso. This spell reveals connections between a wizard's body, magic, and soul, she explained. I found it in an ancient text while researching your symptoms. The golden light settled on Harry's skin, forming intricate patterns that pulsed with his heartbeat. Everything looked normal until the light reached his chest, directly over his heart. There, the golden lines twisted and tangled, some breaking off entirely and reaching outward, as if searching for something. That's not right, Hermione whispered, eyes wide. Harry, your magic, your soul, it's reaching for something. Something that's not here. What does that mean? Harry asked, staring down at the broken lines extending from his chest. I don't know exactly, but, Hermione looked genuinely alarmed now. Harry, I think part of you is missing. They kept this discovery to themselves during the workday. Harry and Ron followed orders, investigating a routine case of enchanted Muggle artifacts being sold in Camden Market. Harry went through the motions, but his mind remained fixed on those broken golden lines stretching from his chest. Part of him was missing. The idea felt terrifying and strangely right at the same time, like finally putting a name to an illness he'd suspected but denied. You're distracted, Ron commented as they finished interviewing a wizard who'd been charming Muggle watches to insult their wearers. Can you blame me? Harry muttered, watching Ministry officials confiscate the merchandise. No. Ron glanced around to make sure no one was listening. Look, Hermione's meeting us after work. She wants to try something else. What? Wouldn't say. Just that she's been researching soul magic. Harry flinched. Soul magic? That sounds like dark stuff, yeah. But this is Hermione we're talking about. Harry nodded, but uneasiness crept through him. Soul magic brought back memories of Horcruxes, of Voldemort, of that final battle at Hogwarts 5 years ago. The battle they'd won, but at such cost. Fred, Remus, Tonks, and so many others. They finished their assignment and headed to Grimmauld Place, where Hermione was waiting with a bag full of books and strange silver instruments. I've been thinking, she said without preamble as they entered the kitchen. The connection we saw earlier, those golden lines reaching outward, they're reaching for something specific. How do you know? Harry asked, collapsing into a chair. Because they all point in the same direction. She pulled out a compass-like device. Northwest from London, to be precise. And they're not just magical connections, they're soul connections. Harry felt cold dread settle in his stomach. Soul connections? Like Horcruxes. The word hung in the air. Ron looked pale. I don't know, Hermione admitted. But we need to find out what's at the other end of those lines. And how do we do that? Ron asked. We follow them. She placed the compass on the table. This is a soul tracker. Highly restricted, I had to sign it out from the Department of Mysteries with 3 different forms. She looked at Harry. It needs a drop of your blood to work. Harry didn't hesitate. He pricked his finger with his wand and let a drop of blood fall onto the compass. The needle spun wildly before settling, pointing firmly northwest. Hogwarts, Harry said immediately. It's pointing to Hogwarts. Or the Forbidden Forest, Ron added. Hermione nodded. We need to go there. Tomorrow's Saturday, we can make the trip without missing work. I need answers now, Harry said, standing suddenly. I'll go tonight. Harry, Hermione began. I keep blacking out, Hermione. Performing magic I don't remember. What if I hurt someone? His voice cracked slightly. If part of my soul is out there somewhere, I need to find it. Ron and Hermione exchanged glances. Fine, Ron said. We'll go tonight. But we go together. They apparat to Hogsmeade after dinner, the compass guiding them past the village toward the castle grounds. Hogwarts loomed against the night sky, windows glowing warmly. It was mid-October, and students would be inside preparing for bed. We should let McGonagall know we're here, Hermione suggested. Harry shook his head. Not yet. Let's see where this leads first. The compass directed them around the castle, toward the Forbidden Forest. Harry felt a growing sense of dread and anticipation. Something pulled at him, an instinctive knowledge that whatever they sought lay ahead. As they entered the forest, memories flooded back, walking to his death, the resurrection stone turning in his hand, facing Voldemort, the killing curse striking him. Harry. Ron's voice broke through his thoughts. You okay, mate? You stopped walking. I'm fine, Harry lied. Let's keep going. The compass led them deeper into the forest, down paths Harry recognized with increasing certainty. When they reached a small clearing, the compass needle began spinning frantically. This is it, Hermione whispered. Whatever we're looking for, it's here. Harry knew this clearing. In this very spot, he had opened the snitch, used the resurrection stone, and walked to what he thought was his death. It can't be, he murmured, falling to his knees and beginning to search the ground. What? Ron asked. What's here? The stone, Harry said, fingers digging into the earth. The resurrection stone. I dropped it right here before facing Voldemort. Hermione's eyes widened. The Deathly Hallow. But you said you left it. I did. Harry insisted, still searching frantically. I never came back for it. Never wanted to. But something inside him hummed with recognition, with longing. He could feel it nearby. Accio Resurrection Stone, he tried, without real hope. Nothing happened. Such a powerful magical object wouldn't respond to a simple summoning spell. Let me try something, Hermione said. She waved her wand in a complex pattern. Anima Revelio. The clearing lit up with magical auras, the natural magic of the forest, traces of ancient spells, and a bright, pulsing spot about 10 feet from where they stood. Harry moved toward it immediately, drawn as if by magnetic force. He knelt and dug with his bare hands until his fingers touched something solid and cold. When he lifted it from the soil, he knew instantly what it was, though he'd seen it only once before. The resurrection stone lay in his palm, still cracked down the middle, still mounted in the ring that had once belonged to Voldemort's grandfather. The moment his skin touched it, Harry felt a jolt of recognition so powerful it nearly knocked him backward. Harry! Ron rushed forward to steady him. But Harry barely heard him. The stone felt warm in his hand, alive somehow. The broken golden lines Hermione had revealed earlier now seemed to connect directly to it, invisible but undeniably present. Part of him lived in this stone. It's not possible, Hermione whispered, watching Harry's face. It can't be. What? Ron demanded. Harry. Hermione's voice shook. I think you created a Horcrux. The word hit Harry like a physical blow. No, he said immediately. That's impossible. I never murdered anyone. Never performed the ritual. Never wanted to split my soul. There might be other ways, Hermione said. Ways we don't understand. Harry stared at the stone, remembering his final confrontation with Voldemort. The Elder Wand refusing to kill its true master. The killing curse rebounding. The magical explosion that followed. The battle, he said slowly. When Voldemort's killing curse rebounded again, there was that moment when both our spells connected. The magical backlash was unlike anything I'd ever felt. Hermione nodded. Your soul had already been through trauma, having Voldemort's soul fragment attached to it for years, then having that piece destroyed. It might have been fragile. So when Voldemort died, Ron began. Part of my soul broke off, Harry finished, feeling sick. And the stone was right there, on the forest floor. A powerful magical object with a connection to death itself. A perfect vessel, Hermione whispered. Harry, we need to be sure. She performed the same spell she'd used in her office. The golden light surrounded Harry, but this time, instead of reaching outward, the broken lines from his chest extended directly to the stone in his hand, connecting visibly. It's yours, she confirmed. Part of your soul is inside the resurrection stone. Harry felt the room spin. He'd spent years hunting Voldemort's Horcruxes, understanding the evil required to create them. And now, somehow, he'd created one himself. Accidentally. Without murder or dark rituals. I need to destroy it, he said immediately. Wait. Hermione grabbed his arm. We don't know what that would do to you. This isn't like Voldemort's Horcruxes. You didn't intentionally split your soul through murder. This happened during a magical battle, when you were protecting yourself, protecting all of us. What are you saying? I'm saying we need to research this before doing anything drastic. She looked at the stone with academic fascination mingled with horror. This might explain your blackouts, the strange magic. Part of you is acting through the stone. How? Ron asked. It's just been sitting in the forest. Has it? Hermione raised her eyebrows. Harry, when did your blackout start? 2 months ago, right after that raid in Nocturne Alley. Harry nodded. That cursed artifacts dealer, what if he found the stone? What if it was among his collection, and when you raided his shop, it sensed your presence? Sensed the rest of your soul nearby? The idea chilled Harry to the bone. You think it's been calling to me? Making me do things while I sleep? I think your fragmented soul has been trying to reunite, Hermione said. And now it has. As if confirming her words, Harry felt a strange completion holding the stone, like finding a missing piece of himself he hadn't known was gone. The sensation was both comforting and terrifying. Put it down, Ron suggested, eyeing the stone warily. See what happens. Harry tried to open his fingers, to drop the stone back to the forest floor. His hand wouldn't obey. I can't, he said, panic rising. I physically can't let go of it. Hermione frowned. Try putting it in your pocket instead. This Harry could do. The moment the stone was tucked away, he felt a sense of loss, but the connection remained, humming just below his consciousness. We need to get back to London, Hermione decided. I need to research this properly. But what do I do with it? Harry asked, painfully aware of the stone's weight in his pocket. Keep it close for now, Hermione advised. Until we understand what we're dealing with. If it contains part of your soul, separating from it might be dangerous. Harry nodded numbly. He had a Horcrux, the very thing he'd spent years destroying. The irony wasn't lost on him. Neither was the danger. As they prepared to leave the forest, Harry felt the stone pulse in his pocket, like a second heartbeat. The next morning, Harry woke feeling more rested than he had in months. No blackouts, no wandering, no mysterious magic performed while unconscious. The stone lay on his bedside table where he'd placed it before sleep. A moment of panic struck him as he realized it wasn't in his pocket or his hand. He grabbed it quickly, feeling immediate relief as his fingers closed around it. This isn't good, he muttered to himself. His flu activated downstairs. Harry tucked the stone into his pocket and went to greet whoever had arrived. Ginny Weasley stood in his living room, brushing soot from her Holyhead Harpies training gear. "Ron told me what happened," she said without preamble. "Show me." Harry hesitated. He and Ginny had remained close after their brief post-war relationship ended by mutual agreement. She'd understood his need for space, for time to process everything that had happened. She'd been patient, giving him room while remaining one of his closest friends. "It's not pretty," he warned. "I spent a year possessed by Tom Riddle's diary, Harry. I think I can handle it." "Fair point." Harry withdrew the stone from his pocket and held it out. Ginny didn't touch it, but leaned close, studying it with narrowed eyes. "You feel connected to it," she said. "Not a question." "Yes." "How did you know?" "I remember the feeling. With the diary." She straightened. "You can't let it control you, Harry." "It's not like that," he protested. "It's part of me, not some foreign presence like Riddle was with you." "Are you sure?" Her brown eyes bore into his. "Because Ron mentioned blackouts, strange magic. Sounds familiar to me." Harry wanted to argue but couldn't. The parallels were disturbing. "What do I do?" he asked instead. Ginny's expression softened. "First, you stop hiding it from people who care about you. Hermione's researching, but she needs help. I'm going to call Bill. He's worked with soul magic in Egypt." "No," Harry said quickly. "The fewer people who know about this, the better." "Why?" "Afraid the Ministry will find out. That people will think you're turning into the next Voldemort." Harry flinched. She'd hit uncomfortably close to his deepest fear. "Listen to me," Ginny said firmly. "This isn't your fault. You didn't create this Horcrux on purpose. But it exists, and it's affecting you. We need to understand it before it changes you." "You think it will?" Harry asked quietly. "I think anything containing a soul fragment has its own kind of power." She nodded toward his pocket. "Even now, you can't bear to be separated from it, can you?" Harry couldn't deny it. The stone's pull was subtle but unmistakable. "Fine," he conceded. "Call Bill. But no one else, not yet." Ginny nodded and used the fleur to contact her oldest brother. Within an hour, Bill Weasley arrived, bringing ancient-looking scrolls and a small case of curse-breaking tools. "This is unprecedented," Bill said after examining the stone and Harry's connection to it. "I've studied Horcruxes theoretically, most curse breakers have, but an accidental one? Created without murder? I've never heard of such a thing." "Can you tell what it's doing to Harry?" Ginny asked. Bill performed several detection spells, his scarred face serious. "It's not like Voldemort's Horcruxes. Those were violent separations, intentional mutilations of his soul. This." He gestured at the stone and the golden threads connecting it to Harry's chest, visible under Hermione's revealing spell. "This looks more like a clean break. Like your soul fractured under extreme magical pressure." "Is that better or worse?" Harry asked. "Hard to say. Better in that it doesn't seem to be corrupting you the way Voldemort's Horcruxes corrupted their surroundings. Worse in that it seems more integrated with you." Bill studied the connections thoughtfully. "These threads are your magic and soul trying to stay connected across the separation. That's probably what caused your blackouts, your consciousness trying to exist in two places. But that stopped now that I have the stone," Harry pointed out. "Yes, because the connection is stronger when it's physically near you. But the real question is, what happens if you try to use it? The Resurrection Stone is already a powerfully magical object. With part of your soul inside it." The question hung in the air. Harry hadn't tried to use the stone as a hallow. Hadn't turned it 3 times in his hand to call the dead. Part of him feared what might happen if he did. The flue activated again, and Hermione stepped through, arms laden with books. "I think I've found something," she announced, dropping her research onto Harry's coffee table. Ancient accounts of soul fracturing without murderous intent. Everyone gathered around as she opened a weathered tome to a marked page. It's rare, but documented, she explained. In cases of extreme magical trauma or near-death experiences, wizards have occasionally experienced soul fracturing. Usually, the fragments dissipate without a vessel. But if a suitable magical container is nearby, it can become a Horcrux, Harry finished. Not exactly a Horcrux, Hermione corrected. The texts call it an anima fragmentum, a soul fragment. Similar to a Horcrux but without the evil intent. It doesn't provide true immortality like a Horcrux, but it can act as a separate magical entity with some degree of consciousness. That explains the blackouts, Bill nodded. The fragment was acting independently. But why would it perform dark magic at those locations? Ron asked, having arrived with Hermione. Everyone looked at Harry, who shifted uncomfortably. I don't know. I don't remember doing any of it. I have a theory, Hermione said hesitantly. When your soul fractured during the battle with Voldemort, you weren't the only magical presence there. A chill ran through the room as understanding dawned. Voldemort, Ginny whispered. He'd just tried to kill you, Hermione continued. His magic, his intent, was everywhere. What if some of his magical signature, not his soul, but his magical imprint, contaminated your soul fragment as it broke away? The idea was horrifying but made a disturbing kind of sense. It would explain why the magic performed during Harry's blackouts had felt dark, unfamiliar. So I've got what, Voldemort's magical fingerprints on a piece of my soul? Harry asked, feeling sick. Something like that, Hermione confirmed. But the good news is, now that you've found the stone and reconnected with it, you might be able to cleanse that influence. How? By asserting control over the fragment. It's still your soul, Harry, not his. Your intentions should be able to override any lingering contamination. It sounded plausible, but Harry wasn't convinced. And if they can't? If this fragment keeps acting independently, performing dark magic? No one answered immediately. The question they'd all been avoiding loomed large: should Harry destroy the Horcrux, as they had destroyed Voldemort's? We cross that bridge if we come to it, Bill finally said. For now, let's focus on understanding this connection and helping Harry control it. They spent the rest of the day performing tests, researching, and discussing options. The stone remained in Harry's pocket throughout, its presence a constant reminder of his bizarre situation. By evening, they determined several things. The soul fragment in the stone was definitely Harry's. It retained some independence when separated from him, it could enhance his magic when in close proximity, and most disturbingly, it seemed to have absorbed some of Voldemort's magical characteristics during its creation. You need to try using it, Hermione finally suggested as dusk fell. As the resurrection stone, I mean. I don't think that's a good idea, Harry objected. We need to know what happens, she insisted. Better to find out here, with us ready to help, than have it happen unexpectedly. Harry knew she was right, but dread filled him at the thought of turning the stone 3 times, of calling the dead. The last time he'd used it had been to summon his parents, Sirius, and Remus as he walked to his death. The memory was both precious and painful. Okay, he agreed reluctantly. But everyone, have your wands ready. Just in case. They formed a circle in Harry's living room. Harry stood in the center, the stone held tightly in his palm. He took a deep breath and turned it 3 times, thinking of his parents. The effect was immediate and nothing like his previous experience with the stone. Instead of shadowy figures appearing, raw magic exploded outward from Harry's hand. The stone burned hot against his palm, and Harry felt his consciousness expanding, reaching beyond his body. Harry! Ron shouted, but his voice sounded distant. Harry was simultaneously in his living room and somewhere else, a gray, misty place that felt familiar. The resurrection stone was pulling him toward the barrier between life and death, but not to observe as before. This time, it felt like the stone wanted him to cross over. No. Harry fought against the sensation, against the stone's pull. Colors and sounds swirled around him. He heard voices, his parents, Sirius, others he couldn't identify, calling from that grey mist. The stone grew hotter, and Harry realized with horror that it was trying to use his soul fragment to bridge the gap between worlds. With enormous effort, Harry reasserted control. "I am not going there," he said firmly, focusing his will on the stone. "And you are not separate from me. You are mine." The burning sensation peaked, then subsided. The misty otherworld receded, and Harry found himself on his knees in his living room, everyone staring at him in alarm. "What happened?" Ginny asked, kneeling beside him. "You went all glowy and started speaking in another language." "I did." Harry hadn't realized he'd spoken aloud. "I was elsewhere. The stone tried to pull me across some boundary. Into death, I think." Hermione's expression was grave. "The resurrection stone's original purpose combined with your soul fragment, it must have created a unique effect. It wanted to use my fragment, to open a door," Harry explained. "But I stopped it." "You controlled it," Bill noted with approval. "That's important. It means the fragment responds to your will." Harry nodded, but didn't share how difficult the struggle had been, how powerful the stone's pull had felt. The incident left him shaken but also more determined. This was his soul, his magic. He needed to master it before it mastered him. "I need to learn to control this better," he declared, rising to his feet. "And I need to understand exactly what happened when this Horcrux was created." "We'll help," Ron promised. "Whatever you need." Harry looked at his friends, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Bill, all willing to stand by him despite the darkness of what they were facing. Despite the fact that he now had the very thing they'd fought so hard to destroy, a Horcrux. First, he decided, I need to see the memory of that final battle more clearly. I need to understand exactly how this happened. "Pensive?" Hermione suggested. "Hogwarts has one," Ginny reminded them. "McGonagall would let you use it." "Which means telling her about this," Harry said, touching his pocket where the stone rested. "She deserves to know anyway," Hermione pointed out. "If there's anyone we can trust with this, it's her." Harry agreed, though the thought of explaining to his former professor that he'd accidentally created a Horcrux filled him with dread. But he needed answers, and those answers began with seeing exactly what had happened in the moment his soul fractured. "We'll go to Hogwarts tomorrow," he decided. "All of us. I want you all to see the memory too, maybe you'll notice something I missed." As the others prepared to leave, making plans for the following day, Harry felt the stone pulse in his pocket, like a heartbeat, like a promise, like a warning. Whether this accidental Horcrux would prove to be a source of power or a terrible curse remained to be seen. But one thing was certain, Harry Potter's life had once again taken a turn toward the extraordinary, and the dangerous. The stone had been found, but the real challenge was just beginning. Chapter 2, Echoes of Power. The Hogwarts Pensieve swirled with silvery memories as Harry, McGonagall, and the others gathered around it in the headmistress's office. The stone walls felt both comforting and claustrophobic as Harry pressed his wand to his temple, drawing out the silvery strand of his final confrontation with Voldemort. "Are you certain about this, Potter?" McGonagall asked, her lined face solemn. The explanation about his accidental Horcrux had left her uncharacteristically shaken. "I need to see exactly what happened," Harry replied, dropping the memory into the basin. "We all do." One by one, they plunged into the Pensieve, falling through darkness until they landed in the Forbidden Forest 5 years earlier. Memory. Harry walked forward, resurrection stone clutched in his hand, surrounded by the ghostly figures of his parents, Sirius, and Lupin. "There," Hermione whispered, pointing to the moment when Memory. Harry dropped the stone. It fell in slow motion, hitting the forest floor with a soft thud that seemed to echo unnaturally in the memory. They watched Harry face Voldemort, saw the killing curse strike, witnessed Harry's apparent death and then his return to consciousness. The scene shifted to the Great Hall for the final confrontation. "Watch closely," Bill instructed as Memory Harry and Voldemort circled each other. The spells erupted simultaneously, Harry's Expelliarmus against Voldemort's Avada Kedavra. The jets of light connected in midair, and then, "Stop!" Hermione cried, though the memory continued playing. "Did you see that?" They rewound and slowed the memory further. As the spells collided, a shockwave of magic exploded outward. And there, barely visible, a golden mist separated from Harry's chest in the instant of magical impact. It shot across the room, through walls, seemingly drawn towards something outside the castle. "The stone," Ginny breathed. "Your soul fragment was seeking the stone you just dropped in the forest." They watched the rest of the battle play out, saw Voldemort fall, watched the celebrations begin. But Harry couldn't take his eyes off that golden mist, part of his soul, that had torn away without anyone noticing. The memory ended, and they found themselves back in McGonagall's office. "Well," the headmistress said after a long silence, "that explains a great deal. The magical backlash of two such powerful spells, combined with your unique connection to Voldemort. It's remarkable, really." "Remarkable isn't the word I'd use," Harry muttered, hand automatically checking his pocket where the stone rested. "What concerns me," McGonagall continued, "is the influence Voldemort's magic may have had on your soul fragment. His killing curse was still active when the fracture occurred." "That's what I'm afraid of," Harry admitted. "What if his darkness contaminated my Horcrux?" McGonagall's lips thinned. "Then we must determine the extent of that contamination, Potter. And quickly." They relocated to the Room of Requirement, which had somehow survived the fiendfire from the final battle. Harry asked it to become a space for magical testing, a large, empty chamber with reinforced walls and various magical instruments. "Let's see what this thing can actually do," Ron suggested once they were inside. Harry withdrew the stone, holding it in his palm. The connection was stronger than ever, like an extension of himself. "Try casting a spell while holding it," Hermione suggested. Harry nodded, gripping the stone in his left hand while raising his wand with his right. Lumos. His wand tip didn't just light up, it blazed like a miniature sun, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. "Bloody hell!" Ron exclaimed. "A bit excessive for a simple light spell, mate." Harry ended the charm, blinking away spots from his vision. "I barely put any power into that." "Try something more complex," Bill suggested. "But be careful." Harry considered, then pointed his wand at a practice dummy the room had provided. "Stupefy." The red jet that burst from his wand wasn't the usual stunning spell, it was a beam of crimson energy that not only knocked the dummy backward but disintegrated it completely. Everyone stared in shocked silence. "That's not supposed to happen," Harry said weakly. "The stone is amplifying your magic," Hermione observed, a mix of fascination and fear in her voice. "Try something defensive now." Protego, Harry cast, focusing on creating a shield in front of him. Instead of the normal transparent barrier, an opaque dome of shimmering magic encased him completely. When Bill cast a test spell against it, the shield didn't just block the magic, it absorbed it, growing stronger. "That's not a standard shield charm," McGonagall noted, eyebrows raised. "That's closer to ancient warding magic." They continued testing for hours. With the stone, Harry could perform wandless magic with ease, cast spells he'd never formally learned, and infuse simple charms with devastating power. But more disturbing were the moments when the magic felt foreign, when it took on a darker edge than Harry intended. After Harry accidentally conjured snakes instead of the birds he was attempting, Ginny stepped in. "You need to take a break," she insisted, guiding him to sit down. The others moved away, giving them space while discussing theories in hushed voices. "I don't know if I'm controlling it or it's controlling me," Harry confessed quietly. "Some of these spells, they don't feel like mine, Ginny." "That's how it started with the diary," she said. "Small things at first, writing in a different hand, using phrases that weren't mine. Then blackouts. But that was Riddle's soul possessing you. This is my soul. Your soul with Voldemort's magical imprint, she reminded him. I recognize the signs, Harry. When you cast that snake spell, your eyes, they changed for a second. Changed how? He asked, alarmed. They got colder. Harder. She touched his cheek gently. Not like your eyes at all. Harry swallowed hard. What do I do? I can't destroy it, it's part of me. Maybe not destroy it, she said thoughtfully. But contain it, perhaps. Or cleanse it of Voldemort's influence. Before Harry could respond, the room's door swung open, and Neville Longbottom entered, looking flustered. Sorry to interrupt, he said, now herbology professor at Hogwarts, but Harry, there's someone here from the ministry. Looking for you. Says it's urgent. Harry tucked the stone back into his pocket, feeling it pulse against his leg. Who is it? Gawain Robards. Your boss. And he doesn't look happy. Head Auror Robards waited in McGonagall's office, his lined face taut with tension. 2 junior Aurors flanked him, hands near their wands. Potter, he said curtly as Harry entered with Ron. Care to explain why your magical signature was found at another dark magic incident last night? In Manchester this time. Harry felt his stomach drop. Sir, I was at Grimmauld Place last night. With witnesses. All night? Robards pressed. Well, no, we came to Hogwarts this morning, the incident occurred at 3 a.m. These witnesses of yours, I assume they're the same friends who've been covering for you the past 2 months. Ron stepped forward. Sir, Harry's been dealing with some magical aftereffects from the war. We're helping him research, save it, Weasley. Robards cut him off. The Department of Mysteries has been analyzing the magical residue from these incidents. Know what they found? Traces of Voldemort's magical signature mixed with Potter's. A heavy silence fell. Harry felt the stone burning in his pocket. That's impossible, he said, though he knew it wasn't. Is it? Robards narrowed his eyes. You carried a piece of his soul for 17 years, Potter. Who knows what lingering effects that might have? The question is whether these incidents are accidents or intentional. You can't seriously think Harry's performing dark magic on purpose, Ron protested. What I think, Robards said, is that Potter needs to surrender his wand and badge until we get to the bottom of this. You're suspended from active duty, effective immediately. The words hit Harry like a physical blow. Being an Auror had given him purpose after the war, a way to keep fighting for what was right. Sir, he began. Not negotiable, Potter. Your wand, please. You can't take his wand, McGonagall intervened, entering from a side door. Mr. Potter is a guest at Hogwarts, under my protection. The Ministry has no jurisdiction to disarm wizards on these grounds without cause. Robards looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. Minerva, with respect, there is cause. Potter's magical signature may be explained by any number of post-war magical phenomena, she interrupted smoothly. My staff and I are assisting Mr. Potter with research into his condition. I will personally guarantee he causes no harm while at Hogwarts. And when he leaves? Then whatever decision you make can be enforced, McGonagall conceded. But I recommend you consider your actions carefully, Gawain. Suspending the boy who lived without substantial evidence could be, politically uncomfortable. The threat was veiled but clear. Harry was still immensely popular in the wizarding world. Moving against him without solid proof would cause backlash. Robards hesitated, then nodded stiffly. Very well. Potter, you have 1 week. Report to the Ministry next Monday with an explanation, or face suspension and possible criminal charges. After they departed, Harry turned to McGonagall. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Potter. If you truly are causing these incidents, even unconsciously, we have a serious problem. She fixed him with a penetrating stare. Are you? Harry touched the stone in his pocket. I think the Horcrux might be acting while I sleep. Projecting magic somehow. Then we need to find a way to contain it, she decided. I suggest you all remain at Hogwarts until we develop a solution. Your rooms are still available in Gryffindor Tower. As they left her office, Hermione grabbed Harry's arm. We need to tell the others what happened in Manchester. Whatever your Horcrux did, it's escalating. The news reports arrived with the Evening Daily Prophet. The dark magic incident Robards mentioned wasn't just residual energy this time, it was a full-blown magical attack on a building in Manchester. A building that, according to the Prophet, had been a meeting place for former Death Eaters attempting to regroup. It doesn't make sense, Ron said as they sat in the Gryffindor common room, empty except for them during the summer break. Why would your Horcrux attack Death Eaters? Shouldn't it be, I dunno, sympathetic to them if it's got Voldemort's influence? Unless. Hermione looked up from the article, eyes wide. Unless it's not acting on Voldemort's influence, but on Harry's deepest desires. What's the one thing you've dedicated your life to, Harry? Fighting dark wizards, he answered automatically. Exactly. Your Horcrux might be carrying out that mission while you sleep, hunting down dark wizards using the power it absorbed from Voldemort. A dark detector, Bill mused. Using dark magic to find dark magic. Harry didn't know whether to be relieved or horrified. So my Horcrux is, what, a vigilante? Acting on my subconscious wishes? It makes more sense than it's suddenly developing Voldemort-like tendencies, Ginny pointed out. You'd never want to hurt innocent people. But Death Eaters? That's different. Harry wasn't convinced. But the magic it's using. Robards said it had Voldemort's signature. It might be using the tools available to it, Hermione theorized. Your intent channeled through the magical imprint Voldemort left. They debated late into the night, formulating and discarding theories. Eventually, Harry felt exhaustion overtaking him. We should sleep, he suggested. Figure out next steps in the morning. What about the stone? Ron asked. If it's making you attack places in your sleep. I'll find a way to secure it, Harry promised. But as he lay in his old four-poster bed that night, the stone clutched in his hand, Harry couldn't bring himself to lock it away. It felt too much like locking away part of himself. Instead, he tried something different, directing his thoughts firmly toward the fragment within the stone. I know you're there, he whispered. I know you're part of me. But you need to stop acting on your own. We need to be whole again, not divided. The stone warmed in his hand, pulsing like a heartbeat. Whether his fragment understood, Harry couldn't tell, but he fell asleep still holding it, hoping his message had somehow reached across the divide within his own soul. He dreamed of flying without a broom, of power coursing through his veins, of hunting dark wizards through the night. He dreamed of a broken mask lying on stone floors, of terrified eyes behind it, of magic that tasted like lightning in ash. Harry woke abruptly, the stone burning in his hand. Sunlight streamed through the tower window. He hadn't wandered, hadn't blacked out. But the dreams. They weren't dreams, he realized with sudden certainty. They were memories. He rushed downstairs to find the others already gathered, expressions grim. There's been another incident, Hermione said before he could speak. Scotland this time. An old Death Eater safe house destroyed. I know, Harry said. I remember it. Everyone stared at him. You were conscious? Ginny asked. Not exactly. I dreamed it, but they weren't dreams. They were the Horcrux's experiences. I think our connection is growing stronger. Bill leaned forward. Could you control what happened? No, just observe. Like watching through someone else's eyes. Harry ran a hand through his hair in frustration. But I felt the intent behind it. It wasn't random destruction. The Horcrux is hunting. Hunting what? Ron asked. Before Harry could answer, Neville burst into the common room. You all need to see this, he said, holding out a copy of the Daily Prophet. The headline froze Harry's blood. Ministry questions Potter's stability, is the chosen one turning dark. The article was devastating, anonymous ministry sources claiming Harry was under investigation for dark magic use, speculation about his mental state, references to his connection with Voldemort. Most damning were quotes from people who claimed to have seen him near the sites of the magical disturbances, describing cold green eyes and unnatural power. This is bad, Ron muttered. It gets worse, Neville said. There are Aurors in Hogsmeade questioning people about Harry's whereabouts. And rumors that Robards is preparing to issue an official warrant. Harry felt the walls closing in. The ministry turning against him felt horribly familiar, like fifth year all over again. But this time, the accusations weren't entirely baseless. His Horcrux was causing destruction, whether he consciously directed it or not. We need to destroy it, he decided abruptly. The stone. My Horcrux. We need to end this before someone gets hurt. Harry, no, Hermione protested. We don't know what that would do to you. I don't care. I won't let this thing keep acting in my name. He pulled out the stone, staring at it with determination. Fiendfire destroyed the room of hidden things. It should work on this too. And it might kill you in the process. Ginny argued. This isn't like Voldemort's Horcruxes. This is part of your soul. You can't just destroy it. Then what do you suggest? Harry demanded, frustration building. Wait until the Aurors arrest me. Until the Prophet convinces everyone I'm the next Dark Lord. The stone grew hot in his hand, responding to his emotions. Harry felt power building within him, ready to lash out. Ginny stepped closer, unafraid. Give me the stone, she said softly. What? Why? Because you need distance from it right now. Your emotions are feeding it. She held out her hand. Let me hold it for a while. Harry hesitated, feeling the stone's resistance at the mere suggestion. It didn't want to leave him. But Ginny was right, his anger was making it more volatile. With immense effort, he placed it in her palm. Don't let it out of your sight. I won't. She tucked it into her pocket. Now let's focus on clearing your name. They spent the morning in the library, researching soul magic and containment methods. Hermione found references to specialized containers that could hold magical objects without allowing their influence to spread. Like the opposite of a vanishing cabinet, she explained. Instead of creating a passage, it creates a sealed space where magic can exist but not extend beyond the boundaries. Could we make one? Harry asked. Maybe. The enchantments are complex, but between all of us. She glanced at Bill, who nodded thoughtfully. I've worked with similar principles in tomb wards. It's doable. They began gathering materials and planning the enchantments. Harry felt better having a concrete task to focus on, though his thoughts kept drifting to the stone in Ginny's pocket. Its absence left him feeling hollow, incomplete. Around midday, Luna arrived, having heard about Harry's situation from her father. Daddy says the ministry's formed a special task force, she informed them in her dreamy voice. They're calling it the Potter problem. Great, Harry muttered. Just what I need. He also says there's been unusual activity among former Death Eaters. Luna's normally vague expression sharpened. They're gathering, Harry. Responding to something. That caught everyone's attention. What kind of something? Ron asked. Daddy's sources don't know. But they're excited. Like they've discovered something important. Harry and Hermione exchanged worried glances. If Death Eaters were mobilizing, it couldn't be good, especially with Harry's Horcrux apparently hunting them down. We should warn the Auror office, Harry said. And tell them what? Ron countered. That your accidental Horcrux has been attacking Death Eaters in your sleep, and now they're planning something in response. That'll really help your case. We can't just do nothing, Harry insisted. We won't, Hermione assured him. But we need to be smart about this. Luna, can your father get more information about these Death Eater gatherings? Luna nodded. He'll try. I'll send him an owl right away. As she departed, Harry felt the familiar headache building behind his scar, not the burning pain of Voldemort's presence, but a dull throb that had become increasingly common since finding the stone. You all right? Ginny asked, noticing his discomfort. Fine. Just tired. He hesitated. How's the stone? Quiet. She patted her pocket. No strange urges to go hunting dark wizards or anything. Harry tried to smile, but couldn't quite manage it. The stone's distance was affecting him more than he wanted to admit. I think I need some air, he said, standing suddenly. I'll take a walk around the lake. I'll come with you, Ginny offered, but Harry shook his head. I need to clear my head. Alone. He left before anyone could object, needing space from their concerned looks and whispered theories. The June sunshine felt good on his face as he descended to the grounds, but it did little to ease the emptiness inside him. Harry walked the familiar path around the lake, memories surfacing with each step. This was where he'd faced the Dementors to save Sirius. Where he'd solved the egg clue during the Triwizard Tournament. Where he'd spent countless hours with Ron and Hermione, planning and plotting. Hogwarts had always been his true home. Now it felt like a refuge again, possibly the only place left where he wouldn't be immediately arrested. As Harry rounded the far side of the lake, a flicker of movement caught his eye. Someone was watching him from the edge of the Forbidden Forest. He reached for his wand instinctively, then relaxed as he recognized the centaur stepping into view. Firenze, Harry called, approaching the Palomino centaur who had once taught divination at Hogwarts. Harry Potter. Firenze's blue eyes studied him intently. The stars speak of your troubles. Do they now? Harry couldn't keep the skepticism from his voice. Divination had never been his favorite subject. You are divided, Firenze stated simply. Part of you walks a different path than the rest. Harry stiffened. You know about the stone. I know that what was once broken seeks to be whole. The centaur's gaze moved to the castle. But others seek your fragment for darker purposes. What do you mean? Who's seeking it? Those who would use your power to resurrect their fallen master. Firenze stamped a hoof impatiently. The stars show a convergence, Harry Potter. Your fragment, the Stone of Resurrection, those who followed the Dark Lord, all draw together toward conflict. Death Eaters, Harry muttered. They know about my Horcrux. Knowledge spreads like ripples in still water. Your magic has been felt. Firenze turned back toward the forest. Heed this warning, what hunts in darkness will itself be hunted. Guard your fragment well. Before Harry could ask anything more, the centaur disappeared into the trees, leaving him with more questions than answers. He hurried back to the castle, anxiety propelling him forward. The Death Eaters know, Harry announced as he burst into the library where the others were still researching. They know about the Horcrux, and they're planning something. How do you know? Hermione demanded. Firenze told me. Well, in his cryptic centaur way, but the message was clear enough. Harry looked at Ginny. The stone isn't safe. We need to hide it better. Ginny reached into her pocket, and froze. Harry, she said slowly, it's burning hot. Like it's reacting to something. As if in response, an alarm began to sound throughout the castle, a high, keening wail that Harry had never heard before. The wards, Bill said, jumping to his feet. Someone's attacking the outer boundaries. They rushed to the nearest window. In the distance, at the edge of the Hogwarts grounds, flashes of light indicated spell fire. Death Eaters, Ron growled. Has to be. McGonagall's voice echoed through the corridors, magically amplified, all students to their dormitories immediately. All staff to the entrance hall. We're not students anymore, Harry said, gripping his wand. Let's go. They raced down to the entrance hall, where McGonagall was organizing the teachers into defensive positions. Potter, she called when she spotted him. The wards at the main gate are under attack. Approximately a dozen wizards, all wearing masks. Death Eaters, Harry confirmed. They've come for the stone. McGonagall's eyes narrowed. Then they shall be disappointed. Hogwarts has withstood far worse than a handful of Voldemort's leftovers. She dispatched the teachers to strategic positions around the castle. Harry and his friends joined Neville, who was preparing to defend the main entrance. Just like old times, Neville said grimly, though his confidence was a far cry from the nervous boy Harry had once known. Ginny, you should stay back, Harry suggested. Keep the stone safe. Not a chance, she replied. I fight better than most of you, and you know it. Before Harry could argue, the great oak doors shuddered under a powerful spell. The Death Eaters had reached the castle. Positions. Neville called, and they spread out, taking cover behind pillars and statues. The doors burst open in a shower of splinters. 8 masked figures swept in, wands raised. At their center stood a tall, gaunt man whose mask was different from the others, silver, with intricate runes carved along its edges. Potter, the leader called. We know you're here. Show yourself. Harry recognized the voice immediately. Rodolphus Lestrange, he muttered to the others. Bellatrix's husband. Come out, Potter. Lestrange continued. Give us the stone, and we'll leave your precious school intact. Harry stepped forward, ignoring his friend's protests. Looking for this, he called, signaling Ginny to reveal the stone briefly before hiding it again. Lestrange's mask couldn't conceal his eagerness. The resurrection stone. And your soul fragment within it. Yes, we've felt its power these past months. How did you know? Harry demanded, playing for time as teachers quietly positioned themselves around the hall. Your fragment has been hunting us, Potter. Did you think we wouldn't notice? Attacking our safe houses, targeting our people. Lestrange laughed coldly. But then we realized what an opportunity this presented. Your soul, infused with the Dark Lord's final magic, housed in the Stone of Resurrection itself. The perfect vessel for his return. Harry's blood ran cold. Voldemort is dead. For good this time. His body, perhaps. But his essence remains in his final spell, the killing curse he cast at you. The one that rebounded and took his life. Lestrange's voice grew fervent. That essence mingled with your soul fragment. With the right ritual, we can use it to bring him back. That's insane, Harry said, though a part of him feared it might be possible. Even if you're right, you'll never get the stone. Won't we? Lestrange raised his wand. Accio Resurrection Stone. Nothing happened, as expected, such a powerful magical object wouldn't respond to a simple summoning. But the attempt was merely a distraction. 2 Death Eaters had circled behind them, targeting Ginny specifically. Stupefy, one shouted, aiming at her back. Harry reacted instinctively. Protego, he cried, but something unexpected happened as his shield charm formed. The stone in Ginny's pocket erupted with light, enhancing Harry's spell. The shield didn't just block the stunning spell, it reflected it with 10 times its original power, blasting the Death Eater through a wall. Chaos erupted. Spells flew in all directions as teachers and Death Eaters engaged. Harry fought his way toward Ginny, who was holding her own against a masked attacker. Get the stone out of here, he shouted to her. Go to the room of requirement. I'm not leaving you, she yelled back, sending a bat bogey hex that temporarily incapacitated her opponent. The stone is what they want. We need to protect it. A spell struck the floor between them, sending up a shower of stone fragments. Harry lost sight of Ginny in the dust and smoke. "Ginny!" he called desperately. "I'm okay." Her voice came from nearby. "But they're everywhere." The battle intensified as more Death Eaters poured into the castle. Hogwarts defenders fought valiantly, but they were being pushed back by the sheer ferocity of the attack. Harry found himself facing Rodolphus Lestrange directly, spells flying between them with increasing violence. Lestrange was a skilled duelist, but Harry matched him spell for spell. "You've grown stronger, Potter," Lestrange taunted. "Is that the stone's influence? A taste of the power the Dark Lord wielded?" "I'm nothing like Voldemort," Harry shot back, deflecting a cutting curse. "No. Then why does your magic taste like his? Why do your eyes flash red when you cast?" The accusation stunned Harry just long enough for Lestrange's next curse to graze his arm, opening a deep gash. Pain lanced through him, but he barely felt it through the surge of anger that followed. Something shifted inside Harry, a darkness rising, familiar yet alien. The same power he'd felt when testing the stone's abilities, but stronger now, fueled by rage and pain. "You want to see power?" Harry heard himself say, his voice oddly distorted. "Let me show you." He raised his wand, and magic unlike anything he'd cast before erupted from it, a torrent of energy that wasn't quite dark but certainly wasn't light either. It struck Lestrange squarely in the chest, lifting him off his feet and slamming him into the far wall. The other Death Eaters faltered, witnessing their leader's defeat. Harry turned to them, power still coursing through him, hungry for release. "Leave," he commanded. "Or suffer the same." His voice echoed unnaturally in the hall. From the corner of his eye, Harry caught his reflection in a shattered window, and saw what Lestrange had meant. His eyes glowed with an inner fire, flecks of red visible within the green. The sight shocked him back to himself. This wasn't his magic, or at least, not entirely. This was the Horcrux's influence taking over. Harry fought to regain control, to push back the darkness that threatened to consume him. The power receded slowly, reluctantly, leaving him shaking and drained. The remaining Death Eaters retreated, dragging their unconscious companions. Only Lestrange remained, struggling to his feet despite the devastating spell Harry had cast. "This isn't over, Potter," he rasped. "The stone belongs to our master. One way or another, we will claim it." Before anyone could stop him, Lestrange activated some kind of portkey and vanished. In the sudden quiet that followed, Harry became aware of everyone staring at him, not just the Death Eaters, but his friends, the teachers, even McGonagall. They'd all seen his display of power, the unnatural glow of his eyes. "Harry," Hermione said cautiously, "are you, yourself?" The question hurt worse than Lestrange's cutting curse. Harry opened his mouth to answer, and realized he wasn't entirely sure. The dark power had receded, but he could still feel it lurking beneath the surface, waiting. Ginny pushed through the crowd, the stone clutched in her hand. "He needs this," she announced, holding it out to Harry. "It's part of him." Harry stared at the stone, torn between longing and fear. Part of him desperately wanted to grab it, to feel whole again. Another part feared what might happen if he did. "I can't," he whispered. "You saw what happened. What I became." "That wasn't the stone's fault," Ginny argued. "It was the situation, the danger, the fight." "Maybe." Harry stepped back. "Or maybe Lestrange was right. Maybe there is something of Voldemort in my fragment, and it's growing stronger." The hall fell silent, everyone watching this exchange with varying degrees of concern and fear. "Perhaps," McGonagall finally said, "we should continue this discussion somewhere more private. And tend to our wounded." The moment broke as people began organizing themselves, checking for injuries, repairing damage to the castle. Harry stood motionless in the center of it all, acutely aware of the wary glances cast his way. He defended Hogwarts, again, but at what cost? For the first time since finding the stone, Harry truly feared what he might become if he continued to embrace its power. In the hospital wing, Madame Pomfrey treated the wounded while McGonagall debriefed those who had fought. "They came specifically for the stone," Hermione summarized. "They know what it is and what it contains. And they believe it can be used to resurrect Voldemort," Ron added grimly. "Mental, the lot of them." "Is it, though?" Bill asked quietly. "We've all seen what the stone does to Harry's magic. If it contains both his soul fragment and the magical resonance of Voldemort's last spell." "It's still impossible," Hermione insisted. "Voldemort's soul was destroyed. All of it. What remains in the stone is just an echo. A magical imprint. But in the hands of fanatics, even an echo might be enough," McGonagall pointed out. "Especially with the resurrection stone's natural properties." Harry sat apart from the others, refusing treatment for his arm until the more seriously injured were tended to. Ginny approached, still holding the stone. "You need to take it back," she said softly. "I can't risk it. You saw what happened. I saw you defend Hogwarts. I saw you drive off a dozen Death Eaters." She sat beside him. "Yes, the magic was intense. Scary, even. But it was still you, Harry. Was it?" He stared at his hands. "It didn't feel like me. It felt like someone else using my body. My magic." "I know that feeling," Ginny reminded him. "Better than anyone. This isn't the same, Harry. The diary controlled me completely. You're still in control, you're just struggling with new power." "Power corrupts," Harry said quietly. "Dumbledore knew that. It's why he never took the minister's position, why he feared the Hallows. And yet he trusted you with the most powerful wand in existence." Ginny placed the stone on the bed between them. "Because he knew your heart, Harry. Just as I do." Harry stared at the stone, feeling its pull. "What if I can't control it? What if next time I hurt someone innocent? Then we'll face that together." Ginny took his hand. "But hiding from your own soul isn't the answer." Before Harry could respond, the hospital wing doors burst open. Luna rushed in, breathless. "Death Eaters," she gasped. "Attacking Hogsmeade. Lots of them." Everyone moved at once. McGonagall began issuing orders while those who could fight prepared to defend the village. This was their plan all along, Hermione realized. The attack on the castle was a diversion. They wanted to draw us out, separate us from the stone. Then we don't give them what they want, Harry decided, picking up the stone. The moment his fingers touched it, he felt the connection snap back into place, the wholeness, the power, the lurking darkness. But this time, he was prepared for it. "We face them together, stone and all." "Harry, are you sure?" Ron asked. "After what happened, I'm sure that I can't hide from this." Harry pocketed the stone, feeling its warmth against his leg. "It's part of me, for better or worse. And right now, Hogsmeade needs whatever help we can provide." They hurried down to the village, a mixed group of teachers, students, and Harry's friends. The scene that greeted them was chaotic, buildings burning, villagers running for cover, masked figures casting spells indiscriminately. This was a much larger force than the one that had attacked Hogwarts, at least 30 Death Eaters, led by Rodolphus Lestrange, who stood in the village square directing the assault. "Spread out," McGonagall ordered. "Protect the civilians." They dispersed, engaging Death Eaters throughout the village. Harry headed straight for Lestrange, determined to end this. "Potter." Lestrange called when he spotted him. "Have you reconsidered our offer?" "There was no offer," Harry replied, wand ready. "Just threats and delusions. Then we take it by force." Lestrange signaled to his followers, who began converging on Harry's position. Harry felt the stone pulse in his pocket, responding to the danger. This time, instead of fighting its influence, he embraced it, but on his terms, maintaining iron control over how its power flowed through him. When the first spells came his way, Harry's shield rose with incredible strength, but without the wild, dark edge from before. He countered with precise, powerful attacks that incapacitated without killing. "You're holding back," Lestrange taunted. "Afraid of your own power, Potter? Afraid of becoming him?" "I'm not afraid," Harry replied calmly. "I'm in control." He demonstrated this by casting a complex combination of spells, a disarming charm linked to a stunning spell linked to a bodybind, all flowing from his wand in rapid succession. The magic was enhanced by the stone but directed by Harry's will alone. 2 Death Eaters fell immediately. A third managed to shield against the disarming charm but was caught by the stunner that followed. Throughout Hogsmeade, similar battles raged. Ron and Hermione fought back-to-back near the 3 broomsticks. Neville protected a group of trapped villagers outside Honeydukes. McGonagall dueled 3 Death Eaters simultaneously near the post office. For a moment, it seemed they might prevail through sheer skill and determination. Then Lestrange played his final card. "Now," he shouted, and 5 Death Eaters who had held back from the fighting raised their wands in unison, casting an unfamiliar spell toward the center of the village. A swirling vortex of dark energy formed, growing rapidly. Within it, shadowy figures began to take shape, not solid, but not quite ghosts either. The air turned cold, and Harry felt a familiar dread creeping over him. "What is that?" Ron shouted from across the square. "A summoning," Hermione called back, horror in her voice. "They're trying to call spirits from beyond the veil." Harry understood instantly. This was why they'd wanted the Resurrection Stone, to enhance this ritual, to make these spectral summonings more substantial. "It won't work without the stone," he said to Lestrange. "Whatever you're trying to do, it needs the Hallow to succeed." "Perhaps," Lestrange admitted. "But even incomplete, the ritual serves its purpose." He gestured to the growing spirits, which were beginning to move toward the villagers. Whenever they touched someone, that person collapsed, screaming. "They're not Dementors," Ginny said, appearing at Harry's side. "But they're similar. Feeding on life instead of happiness." Harry knew what he had to do, though everything in him resisted. The stone could power the ritual fully, could potentially bring back Voldemort in some form, but it could also end this attack. "I need to use the stone," he told Ginny. "To stop those things." "Harry, no, there's no other way. The stone can control them, it's the Resurrection Stone. It governs the boundary between life and death." Before she could argue further, Harry drew the stone from his pocket and held it tightly in his left hand, wand in his right. He felt the now familiar rush of power, the expanded awareness that came with embracing his soul fragment. "Focus," he told himself. "Control it. Direct it." Harry turned the stone 3 times, but instead of thinking of specific dead to summon, he focused on the spectral entities Lestrange had called forth. He pictured them returning to whatever realm they'd been summoned from, visualized the boundary between worlds closing. The stone blazed with light, responding to his will. The ghostly attackers paused, turning toward Harry as if hearing a call only they could perceive. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, they began to dissolve, pulled back through the vortex by an invisible force. Harry maintained his concentration, pouring his will into the stone, commanding the boundary to close. Lestrange screamed in fury. "Stop him! Get the stone!" Death Eaters charged toward Harry, but Ginny, Ron, Hermione and the others formed a protective circle around him, holding them back. The strain of controlling the stone was immense. Harry felt it fighting him, trying to expand the portal rather than close it. This was Voldemort's influence, the dark echo in his soul fragment wanting to thin the barrier between life and death, not strengthen it. Harry fought against this impulse with everything he had. "Close," he commanded the vortex. "Return what doesn't belong." The last of the spectral entities vanished, and the vortex began to shrink. Harry felt victory within reach, and then something went wrong. The stone flared with blinding light. Harry felt himself being pulled toward the vortex, not physically but spiritually, as if the stone were trying to drag his soul through. His vision filled with swirling gray mist, and voices called from beyond, not his parents or friends this time, but darker voices, hungry ones. Harry. Ginny's voice seemed to come from very far away. Let go of the stone. He couldn't. His fingers were locked around it, his will entangled with its magic. The boundary between worlds thinned dangerously as the stone tried to fulfill its true purpose, to resurrect the dead, to bridge the gap between realms. And somewhere within that swirling chaos, Harry sensed a presence he knew all too well, cold, calculating, patient. Waiting to be called forth. No, Harry gasped, redoubling his efforts. You stay dead. With a final, desperate push of will, Harry forced the vortex closed. The stone in his hand shattered, not physically, but magically, its internal structure fracturing under the strain. The light winked out, and Harry collapsed to his knees, utterly spent. Around him, the tide of battle had turned. With their ritual disrupted, the Death Eaters were retreating, disapparating before they could be captured. Only Lestrange remained, his mask gone, his face contorted with rage. This isn't over, Potter, he snarled. The stone can be repaired. And when it is, our master will return. Before Harry could respond, Lestrange vanished with a crack of apparition. Silence fell over Hogsmeade, broken only by the crackle of fires being extinguished and the moans of the injured. Harry stared at the stone in his palm, still whole physically, but magically fractured, its power diminished. You did it, Hermione said, kneeling beside him. You stopped the ritual. For now, Harry replied grimly. But Lestrange is right, the stone can be repaired. And as long as my soul fragment is inside it. We need to find a way to remove your fragment safely, she agreed. Before they try again. Harry nodded, too exhausted to speak further. The battle had taken everything he had, both physically and magically. But worse than the exhaustion was the memory of what he'd sensed within the vortex, that patient, waiting presence. Voldemort, or some echo of him, lingering at the boundary. I can't keep the stone, Harry decided, finding new resolve. It's too dangerous. Too tempting. What will you do with it? Ron asked, helping him to his feet. Harry looked at Hermione. I'm going to give it to the only person I trust completely to study it, understand it, and find a way to free my soul fragment without releasing what else might be trapped inside. Hermione's eyes widened. Harry, I don't know if I can, you can, he said simply, placing the stone in her hand. You've never failed me yet. The moment the stone left his possession, Harry felt the loss acutely, a hollowness in his chest where its connection had been. But he also felt relief, like setting down a burden he'd carried too long. As they made their way back to Hogwarts, Harry knew this was only a temporary solution. Lestrange and his followers would return. The Ministry still suspected him of dark magic. His soul remained fragmented, part of it housed in one of the most powerful magical objects in existence. But for the first time since finding the stone, Harry felt hope. Not because the situation had improved, but because he'd faced the darkness, both external and within himself, and maintained control. He'd used the stone's power without surrendering to its darker impulses. Whether that control would last remained to be seen. The echoes of power from his accidental Horcrux had shown him glimpses of what he could become, both the strength and the danger. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear, Harry Potter would not become the next Dark Lord. Not while he had friends willing to stand beside him, to help him fight the darkness without and within. As Hogwarts came into view, Harry made a silent promise to himself. Whatever happened next, whatever challenges awaited, he would face them as himself, not as Voldemort's successor, not as the stone's master, but as Harry. Just Harry. The stone pulsed faintly in Hermione's pocket, a reminder that the final chapter of this story was yet to be written. Chapter 3, The Choice, Potter's been spotted in Edinburgh. No, reports say he's in Devon. I heard he attacked an horror team in Manchester last night. Harry listened to the rumors flying around the leaky cauldron from beneath his invisibility cloak, pressed into a corner while Ron distracted Tom the barman. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at Hogsmeade, and the wizarding world had worked itself into a frenzy over the boy who lived dangerously, as the prophet now called him. Load of rubbish, Ron said loudly, drawing more attention to himself and away from the concealed Harry. Harry Potter turning dark. After everything he did for us. Ministries lost the plot. Several patrons nodded agreement, but others looked skeptical. Then where is he? Demanded a witch in ministry robes. If he's innocent, why is he hiding? Would you turn yourself in if the entire Aura department was hunting you based on rumors? Ron shot back. Harry slipped toward the door as Ron continued arguing his case. They'd developed this routine over the past weeks, Ron creating distractions while Harry gathered information under the cloak. It wasn't ideal, but it beat the alternative of being locked in Azkaban while Rodolphus Lestrange plotted Voldemort's return. Outside in Diagon Alley, Harry navigated through the crowds, careful not to bump anyone. The street buzzed with nervous energy, wanted posters with his face plastered on walls, Aurors patrolling in pairs, shopkeepers eyeing customers with suspicion. The wizarding world teetered on the edge of panic, reminiscent of Voldemort's return years earlier. Harry reached Weasley's Wizard Wheezes and tapped a specific pattern on the back door. George let him in immediately, locking it behind him. All clear, George confirmed, leading Harry upstairs to the flat above the shop where Hermione waited with piles of books, scrolls, and magical instruments surrounding her. Harry removed the cloak, feeling the weight of exhaustion and constant vigilance. Any progress? Maybe. Hermione looked up from an ancient tome. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, she'd been sleeping even less than Harry. I think I've found a ritual that might work. Hope fluttered in Harry's chest. To remove the soul fragment from the stone. To reunite it with you, she clarified. The texts are clear, destroying a soul fragment, even one accidentally created, would damage the original soul. But reintegration might be possible. Harry sank into a chair. Since giving Hermione the stone, he'd felt its absence constantly, a hollow ache where something vital should be. The separation had stopped his blackouts but left him feeling diminished, incomplete. What about Voldemort's magical influence? He asked. The dark echo inside it? That's the complicated part. Hermione pushed her hair back tiredly. The ritual requires purification first. We'd need to cleanse the fragment of outside influences before reintegrating it. How? Blood magic. She looked uncomfortable saying it. The texts describe using the blood of someone who loves the fractured soul, truly loves it, to wash away corruption. George whistled. That's serious stuff, Hermione. Ministry classifies blood magic right up there with the unforgivables. I know. She closed the book. But it might be our only option. The door opened, and Ron entered with Ginny close behind. Coast is clear, he reported. But something big's happening at the ministry. Everyone was talking about some emergency session of the Wisengamot tonight. Ginny handed Harry the latest prophet. They're voting on a motion to classify you as an official threat to wizarding security. If it passes, they can authorize lethal force. Harry skimmed the article, face grim. Robards is pushing hard. He's scared, Hermione said. They all are. The magical incidents, the Death Eater attacks, the rumors about Voldemort, people want someone to blame. And I'm the perfect target. Harry tossed the paper aside. How much time do we need for this ritual? At least 3 days to prepare. Hermione looked worried. We need specific ingredients, most of which aren't exactly sold in Diagon Alley. And we need a location with powerful natural magic to support the ritual. Hogwarts? Ron suggested. Harry shook his head. Too risky. McGonagall's already under investigation for harboring me. I won't put the school in more danger. What about Bill's cottage? Ginny suggested. It's isolated, protected by Fidelius, and sits on an intersection of magical ley lines. Ron nodded enthusiastically. Perfect. And Bill can help with the ritual setup, he knows more about this stuff than any of us. I'll contact him, George offered. The Order's communication network is still operational. The scattered remnants of the Order of the Phoenix had become Harry's underground support system, helping him stay ahead of Ministry pursuit while working to clear his name. Kingsley Shacklebolt, though hamstrung politically as minister, fed them inside information. Arthur Weasley monitored Ministry movements. Neville and Luna managed public sentiment through carefully placed stories in the Quibbler. But time was running out. Each day brought new rumors, new sightings, new magical disturbances attributed to Harry, though he suspected Lestrange was behind many of them, deliberately stoking fear. The ingredients, Harry refocused. What do we need? Hermione unrolled a parchment with a detailed list. Phoenix tears, freely given. Water from the Lake of Avalon. Powdered horn of a unicorn that died naturally. 3 drops of dragon's blood. And... She hesitated. What? Harry pressed. The blood of someone who loves you completely, without reservation. She looked at him apologetically. Quite a lot of it, actually. The room fell silent. Blood magic was inherently dangerous, not evil necessarily, but powerful in ways modern wizardry preferred to ignore. I'll do it, Ginny said immediately. No, Harry objected. It's not your decision. She met his gaze defiantly. I qualify, don't I, Hermione? Hermione nodded uncomfortably. The ritual specifically calls for blood freely given by one whose heart belongs wholly to the fractured soul. There you go. Ginny crossed her arms. Problem solved. It's dangerous, Harry insisted. So is having the Ministry hunting you while Death Eaters try to resurrect Voldemort using a piece of your soul. Ginny's expression softened slightly. I'm not afraid, Harry. I never have been, not of you, not of this. Harry wanted to argue further but knew it was pointless. Ginny's mind was made up. And truthfully, a selfish part of him was grateful. Her willingness to help, to sacrifice for him, it meant everything. Fine, he conceded. But we take every possible precaution. Always do, she replied with a small smile. George cleared his throat. Not to interrupt this touching moment, but we've got another problem. The stone's not here, is it? Everyone looked at Hermione, who shifted uncomfortably. It's safe, she assured them. I created a specialized containment box and asked McGonagall to hide it somewhere in Hogwarts. Only she knows where. So we need to get into Hogwarts, Ron summarized. Past Ministry patrols, without being spotted, to find something hidden in a castle with 1,000 hiding places, known only to McGonagall, who's currently under surveillance. When you put it like that. Hermione grimaced. Piece of cake, Ron declared with forced cheerfulness. We've done harder things before breakfast. Harry almost smiled. Ron's unflagging optimism, even in dire circumstances, never ceased to amaze him. We split up, he decided. Ron and I will go to Hogwarts for the stone. Hermione, you and Ginny gather the ritual ingredients. George, coordinate with Bill and prepare the cottage. We have 3 days before the Wisengamot vote, Ginny reminded them. After that. She didn't need to finish. After that, Harry would be hunted more aggressively than ever. The window for resolving this peacefully would close. Then we work fast, Harry said, standing. And hope Lestrange doesn't make his move before we're ready. Hogwarts loomed against the night sky, windows glowing warmly despite the summer holiday. A skeleton staff remained year-round, along with, Harry now knew, a contingent of Aurors keeping watch for his return. Remind you of anything? Ron whispered as they crouched beneath the invisibility cloak near the edge of the forbidden forest. Sneaking out to visit Hagrid first year, Harry replied. Simpler times. Speak for yourself. I thought being eaten by a three-headed dog was pretty complicated. They'd arrived via a complex series of apparition jumps to avoid detection, finally hiking through the mountains behind Hogsmeade. Now they faced the challenge of entering the castle undetected. Marauder's map shows 4 Aurors patrolling the grounds, Harry noted, studying the enchanted parchment. 2 more at the main entrance. McGonagall's in her office. How do we contact her without alerting the Aurors? Harry pointed to a dot moving along the edge of the lake. Hagrid. He can get a message to her. They skirted the grounds carefully, staying beneath the cloak until they reached Hagrid's hut. Smoke curled from the chimney, and Fawn's booming bark greeted their knock. Who's there? Hagrid called gruffly, crossbow in hand as he opened the door. It's us, Harry whispered, briefly lifting the cloak. Hagrid's beetle-black eyes widened, but to his credit, he didn't exclaim loudly as he once might have. Instead, he quickly ushered them inside, closing the door behind them. Harry. Ron. Yeah, shouldn't be here, he whispered, though Hagrid's whisper could still rattle windows. Ministry's got Aurors crawlin' all over. We need to see McGonagall, Harry explained. Urgently. Hagrid nodded without hesitation. Give me 5 minutes to make sure the coast is clear. Then follow me up to the castle. Keep that cloak on tight, mind. True to his word, Hagrid returned shortly and led them through a little-used side entrance. The familiar corridors of Hogwarts felt different under these circumstances, no longer a home, but a dangerous infiltration. They passed one patrolling Auror, who nodded respectfully to Hagrid while Harry and Ron pressed against the wall beneath the cloak. McGonagall's office, formerly Dumbledore's, was guarded by a stone gargoyle. Highland Thistle, Hagrid muttered, and the gargoyle leapt aside. Inside, McGonagall sat at her desk, quill in hand, Dumbledore's portrait dozing above her. She looked up sharply as they entered. Potter. Weasley. Her expression mixed surprise with relief. I've been hoping you'd contact me, though I didn't expect a personal visit. Sorry for the intrusion, Professor, Harry said, removing the cloak. We need the stone. McGonagall's face grew serious. Miss Granger found a solution. A ritual to reintegrate my soul fragment. But we need to act quickly, before the Wizengamot vote. She nodded crisply. I suspected as much when I read this morning's prophet. Standing, she moved to a seemingly blank wall and tapped a complex pattern with her wand. A small alcove appeared, containing a plain wooden box. The containment case Miss Granger created. Harry felt it immediately, the pull of his soul fragment, even through the specialized box. The hollowness in his chest responded, like a magnet seeking its opposite pole. Thank you, he said sincerely. For everything. For believing me. Potter, after all these years, I would be a poor judge of character indeed if I thought you capable of dark magic. Her stern expression softened slightly. Now, you'd better hurry. The Aurors change shifts at midnight, that's your best window for escape. They bid hasty goodbyes to McGonagall and Hagrid before slipping back into the night, the box containing Harry's fragmented soul tucked securely under his arm. Shell Cottage stood on a lonely cliff overlooking the sea, much as Harry remembered from their time hiding there during the Horcrux hunt. Bill and Fleur had temporarily relocated to her parents' home in France, leaving the cottage empty for the ritual. When Harry and Ron arrived, they found preparations well underway. Hermione and Ginny had successfully gathered most ingredients, though acquiring Phoenix Tears had required calling in a favor from Kingsley, who still maintained contact with Fawkes occasionally. Bill had drawn intricate ritual circles in the cottage's main room, using special chalk infused with powdered moonstone. It's almost ready, Hermione reported, examining the wooden box containing the stone. The alignment of stars will be perfect tomorrow night, the summer solstice. Any word from the ministry? Harry asked. The Wisengamot session is still scheduled for tomorrow evening, Bill confirmed. We'll be cutting it close. Harry felt the weight of urgency pressing down. Everything hinged on this ritual succeeding, not just his freedom, but potentially the safety of the wizarding world. If Lestrange somehow obtained the stone and completed his own ritual. Walk me through it again, he requested, needing the distraction from his thoughts. Hermione pointed to the concentric circles drawn on the floor. You'll stand in the innermost circle, holding the stone. I'll conduct the ritual from here, channeling the elemental components, water from Avalon, phoenix tears, dragon's blood, and unicorn horn. And I'll be here, Ginny added, indicating a position directly opposite Harry. When Hermione gives the signal, my blood will flow into this channel, creating the purification pathway for your soul fragment. The magic should strip away any foreign influences, including Voldemort's echo, and prepare your fragment for reintegration, Bill explained. Then comes the tricky part. You'll need to will the fragment to return to you, to recognize itself as part of you. What if it resists? Harry asked the question that had been bothering him. What if Voldemort's influence is stronger than we think? A heavy silence fell. No one had wanted to voice this fear aloud. Then we terminate the ritual, Hermione finally said. The containment circle includes emergency wards. If something goes wrong, we can seal the stone inside permanently. Which means part of your soul would remain trapped forever, Bill warned. It's not an ideal outcome. Better than the alternative, Harry said grimly. They spent the night finalizing preparations. By dawn, exhaustion had claimed most of them, but Harry remained awake, standing at the cliff's edge watching the sun rise over the ocean. Ginny joined him, wrapped in a blanket against the morning chill. Can't sleep. Too much on my mind. He glanced at her. You should rest. You'll need your strength tonight. So will you. She nudged his shoulder with hers. What's really bothering you? Besides the obvious fugitive status, soul fragmentation, and potential Voldemort resurrection. Harry smiled faintly at her attempt at humor. I've been thinking about what happens if this works. If we reintegrate my soul and I go back to being normal. You've never been normal, Harry. Fair point. He turned to face her. But even by my standards, these past weeks have been extraordinary. The power from the stone, it's intoxicating, Ginny. Part of me doesn't want to give it up. She studied him thoughtfully. That's natural, I think. Power always calls to us. But it's not worth the cost, not if it's tainted by his magic. I know. Harry sighed. I keep thinking about Dumbledore's warning about the Hallows, about not seeking power for its own sake. He also trusted you to make the right choice in the end. She took his hand. And you did. You chose to sacrifice yourself rather than seek power. You'll make the right choice again. Her confidence in him felt like a warm fire against the cold uncertainty. Harry squeezed her hand, grateful beyond words for her presence, her unwavering faith. Get some sleep, she urged. Tomorrow will test us all. The day passed in tense preparation. Bill strengthened the ritual circles while Hermione meticulously measured ingredients. Ron maintained watch outside, alert for any sign of Ministry or Death Eater activity. As evening approached, Harry felt mounting pressure from multiple directions. The box containing the stone seemed to vibrate with anticipation, as if the fragment inside knew what was coming. His own incomplete soul ached with longing to be whole again. It's time, Bill announced as the sun dipped below the horizon. The solstice alignment begins in 20 minutes. They took their positions, Harry in the center circle, Hermione at the ritual focal point, Ginny opposite Harry, Bill monitoring the magical flows, and Ron standing guard near the door. Once we begin, we cannot stop until completion or emergency termination, Hermione warned. Everyone clear on the procedure? Nods all around. Harry removed the stone from its containment box, feeling the immediate connection as his fingers closed around it. The familiar warmth spread up his arm, the sense of partial completion. "Ready when you are," he told Hermione. She began the ritual, speaking words in an ancient language while mixing the rare ingredients in a ceremonial bowl. The chalk lines began to glow softly as magic built within the circles. "Water of Avalon, bind the fragments," Hermione intoned, pouring shimmering liquid into channels that flowed toward Harry. "Phoenix tears, heal what was broken." The magical energy intensified. Harry felt the stone growing warmer in his palm, pulsing like a second heartbeat. The fragment inside stirred, becoming more active as the ritual progressed. Dragon's blood, strengthen the bond. Unicorn horn, purify the essence. Each ingredient added its power to the growing magical matrix. The chalk lines now blazed with light, and Harry felt himself lifted slightly off the ground as energy swirled around him. "Now, Ginny," Hermione directed. Ginny extended her arm over a small silver basin. With unflinching resolve, she drew a ritual knife across her palm, allowing blood to flow into the basin. Harry winced at the sight but maintained his focus on the stone. "Blood freely given from a heart wholly devoted," Hermione continued, channeling Ginny's blood into the final ritual path. "Cleanse all corruption, wash away all that does not belong." The moment Ginny's blood reached the inner circle, the stone in Harry's hand erupted with light. Pain lanced through him, not physical but spiritual, the pain of something foreign being forcibly extracted from part of his soul. Harry gritted his teeth, maintaining his grip on the stone as it burned hotter. Inside his mind, he heard screaming, high, cold, furious. Voldemort's echo, fighting against separation. "It's resisting," he gasped, struggling to stay upright as magic whirled around him. "Focus, Harry," Bill called. "Your will needs to be stronger. It's your soul, command it." Harry concentrated, pushing through the pain. "You are mine," he told the fragment mentally. "Not his. Never his. Return to me." The screaming intensified, but beneath it, Harry sensed something else, a quieter presence that felt familiar, that felt like himself. His true soul fragment, separated from Voldemort's influence by Ginny's blood. "That's it!" Hermione shouted over the magical maelstrom. "The separation is working." Harry opened his eyes to see the stone now emanating two distinct lights, a pure golden glow and a sickly greenish haze being pushed outward. Ginny's blood, flowing through the ritual channels, seemed to draw the green light away from the gold, acting as a filter. "Now, Harry," Bill called. "Call your fragment back to you. Reject the other." Harry focused all his will, all his sense of self. "Return," he commanded his soul fragment. "We are one." The golden light surged from the stone, flowing into Harry's chest. The sensation was extraordinary, like finding a piece of himself he hadn't known was missing. Warmth spread through his body, filling the emptiness that had plagued him since the battle with Voldemort. But the green light remained, swirling angrily within the ritual circle, trying to follow the gold. "Contain it," Hermione cried, hastily modifying the ritual. "Don't let it reattach." Bill and Hermione worked frantically, redirecting magical flows to trap the green essence, Voldemort's magical echo, trying desperately to find a new host. For a moment, the outcome hung in balance. Harry felt his soul fragment reintegrating, becoming whole again, while Voldemort's echo sought frantically for a foothold. The stone, caught between these opposing forces, began to crack under the strain. "The stone is breaking," Ron shouted from the edge of the room. "Let it," Harry called back. "Just contain what's inside." With a sound like shattering crystal, the resurrection stone fractured. The golden light finished pouring into Harry, completing the reintegration of his soul. The green essence, trapped by the ritual boundaries, swirled in increasingly erratic patterns. "We need to destroy it," Harry declared, feeling complete for the first time in years. "Now, while it's contained." "Fiendfire." Bill suggested grimly. Too dangerous in here, Hermione countered. The cottage door exploded inward, interrupting her. Through the splintered remains stormed Aurors, wands raised, led by Gawain Robards himself. Nobody move, he commanded. By order of the Ministry of Magic, you're all under arrest. Simultaneously, the windows shattered as masked figures burst in from all sides, Death Eaters, at least a dozen, with Rodolphus Lestrange at their head. The stone! Lestrange cried, eyes fixed on the fractured hallow and the swirling green essence. Secure it! Chaos erupted. Spells flew in all directions as three factions collided, Aurors, Death Eaters, and Harry's friends. The ritual circle, disrupted by the intrusion, began to destabilize. The containment is failing. Hermione shouted, desperately casting reinforcement charms. We have seconds at most. Harry's newly whole soul hummed with power, natural power, not the artificial enhancement of the Horcrux, but his own magic at its fullest potential. He raised his wand, ready to defend his friends. Protego Maxima, he cried, creating a shield between his friends and both attacking groups. Robards faltered, surprised by Harry's defensive rather than offensive stance. Potter! Surrender now. The ritual isn't complete. Harry called back. There's something dangerous contained here, if it escapes, lies. Lestrange snarled, flinging a killing curse that splashed against Harry's shield. He wants the power for himself. Several Death Eaters converged on the ritual circle, attempting to reach the fractured stone and the essence it had contained. Aurors, confused by the situation, divided their attention between Harry's group and the Death Eaters. Sir, one Auror said to Robards, I think Potter's telling the truth. That energy, it feels dark, but different from his magical signature. Robards hesitated, years of Auror instincts warring with his recent suspicions. Hold position, he finally ordered. Don't approach that circle. Too late. A Death Eater breached the weakening containment, reaching for the stone fragments. The swirling green essence immediately surged toward him, engulfing his body. The man screamed, back arching unnaturally as Voldemort's magical echo found a host. His mask fell away, revealing a young face contorting in agony as the foreign magic invaded him. Yes. Lestrange exulted. The Master returns. No, Harry contradicted grimly. That's not Voldemort. It's just his magical echo, his intent, his hatred, his power. But not his soul. The possessed Death Eater turned slowly, movements jerky and unnatural. When he spoke, the voice was a horrifying blend, partly his own, partly the high, cold tone Harry remembered all too well. Potter, the hybrid voice hissed. Always interfering. This ends now, Harry declared, stepping forward. The possessed man laughed, a chilling sound. You've failed, Potter. My essence lives on. Without the stone to contain it, I am free to find a new form. You're not Voldemort, Harry repeated, addressing both the echo and the watching Death Eaters. Just a shadow. A memory of his magic, not his soul. Magic is power, the possessed man shrieked. And with this vessel, I shall gather followers again. Lord Voldemort cannot truly die. Harry looked at Robards, making a split-second decision. Truce, he suggested. Deal with this first, sort out the rest later. The head Auror nodded curtly, recognizing the greater threat. Aurors. Contain that man. A new battle line formed, Aurors and Harry's grouped together against Lestrange and his Death Eaters, who rallied around the possessed figure. Spells flew with increasing violence, but the possessed Death Eater displayed frightening power, deflecting multiple attacks at once. It's growing stronger, Hermione warned. Absorbing ambient magic to stabilize itself. We need to separate it from its host, Bill suggested. Complete the purification ritual. How? Ron demanded. The circle's broken, the stones destroyed. Harry's mind raced. The echo needed a host or a container. Without either, it would dissipate. But extracting it from the Death Eater without another vessel ready. His gaze fell on the fragments of the Resurrection Stone, still lying in the disrupted ritual circle. The stone was broken, but perhaps not useless. "Ginny," he called. "We need more blood." She understood immediately. "Same as before?" "Yes, but directed at the stone fragments. If we can make them a more attractive vessel." Ginny slashed her palm again, letting blood flow onto the stone fragments while Harry and Hermione hastily reconstructed part of the ritual circle. Bill joined them, adding his expertise in curse-breaking to repair the magical framework. Across the room, Aurors and Death Eaters battled furiously. The possessed man grew visibly stronger with each passing moment, his spells devastating everything they touched. "Ready!" Hermione called. Harry approached the possessed Death Eater, wand raised. "Your time's up," he declared. "You don't belong here." "You cannot banish me, Potter," the hybrid voice mocked. "I am magic itself." "No," Harry corrected. "You're just an echo." "And echoes fade." With that, Harry cast a spell of his own devising, not dark, but powerful, drawing on his newly whole soul and his intimate knowledge of Voldemort's magic after years of connection. Nexus Revelio. A beam of pure white light struck the possessed man, illuminating the magical connections within him, highlighting the parasitic green essence controlling his body. "Now, Hermione!" Harry shouted. Hermione activated the reconstructed ritual. Ginny's blood, infused with her selfless love for Harry, created a magnetic pull on the revealed essence. The stone fragments glowed with inviting power. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the possessed Death Eater screamed as the green essence began to tear itself free, drawn toward the stone fragments. "No!" Lestrange cried, lunging forward. "Master, resist." But the pull was too strong. With a wrenching sound like cloth tearing, the green essence separated from the Death Eater, who collapsed unconscious. The essence hovered momentarily, then shot toward the stone fragments. "Containment now!" Bill shouted. Together, Harry, Hermione, and Bill cast the final sealing spells as the essence made contact with the stone fragments. A blinding flash filled the room, followed by impenetrable darkness. When light returned seconds later, the stone fragments lay inert within a perfect circle of silvery light, contained, sealed, harmless. Silence fell over the battlefield. Death Eaters, seeing their hope of Voldemort's return extinguished, began to disapparate. Aurors moved to apprehend those too slow to escape. Lestrange, howling with rage, launched a final desperate attack toward Harry. "You've ruined everything," he screamed, casting the killing curse. Robards intercepted the spell with a conjured bronze shield that melted upon impact. 3 Aurors simultaneously stunned Lestrange, who crashed to the floor, defeated at last. Harry lowered his wand, exhaustion washing over him now that the immediate danger had passed. His soul felt whole, complete, no darkness, no foreign influence, just himself. The power that had tempted him was gone, but so was the hollowness, the sense of something missing. "Potter," Robards approached cautiously. "I think we need to talk." "Yes," Harry agreed. "We do." Dawn broke over the Ministry of Magic as Harry finished his testimony before the emergency session of the Wizengamot. The Grand Chamber was packed, every member present to hear the extraordinary tale of an accidental Horcrux and the near return of Britain's darkest wizard. "And so the stone fragments are now contained in the Department of Mysteries," Harry concluded. "The magical echo inside cannot escape and will eventually dissipate completely." Murmurs filled the chamber as the Wizengamot members conferred. Minister Shacklebolt, who had overseen the proceedings, called for order. "Mr. Potter," he addressed formally, though his eyes showed warmth. "The evidence presented, including pensive memories from multiple witnesses and the testimony of head Auror Robards, supports your account entirely. The emergency motion to classify you as a security threat is hereby withdrawn. Relief swept through Harry. Beside him, Ron and Hermione smiled, while Ginny squeezed his hand under the table. Furthermore, Kingsley continued, the Wizengamot extends its apologies for the misunderstanding and its gratitude for your actions in preventing another potential rise of dark forces. Thank you, Minister, Harry replied. But I couldn't have done any of it alone. Kingsley nodded acknowledgement. There remains the question of the legal status of the ritual performed, particularly the use of blood magic, which is technically restricted. Hermione tensed, but Kingsley continued, given the extraordinary circumstances and the defensive nature of its application, the Wizengamot has voted to issue a special exemption in this case. The formal proceedings concluded shortly after, with Lestrange and his captured followers remanded to Azkaban. As the chamber cleared, Robards approached Harry privately. Potter, he said gruffly. I owe you an apology. I was wrong about you. You were doing your job, Harry replied. Following the evidence as you saw it. Still. The head Auror looked uncomfortable. When you're ready, your position in the Auror office remains open. Harry nodded. I'll think about it. As they left the ministry, Harry felt lighter than he had in years, not just weeks or months, but years. The burden of Voldemort's influence, which had shadowed him since childhood, was truly gone. His soul was whole, entirely his own. What now? Ron asked as they stepped into the morning sunshine. Breakfast, Harry suggested with a smile. I'm starving. No, I mean after that, Ron pressed. Back to the Aurors. Something else? Harry considered. The experiences of the past weeks had changed him, made him reconsider his path. I don't know yet, he admitted. But whatever I choose, it'll be because it's right for me, not because it's expected, or because it's what I've always done. Ginny slipped her hand into his. No rush to decide, she said. You've earned some peace. Harry squeezed her hand, grateful beyond words for her presence, for all of them, these friends who had stood by him through the darkest times. One thing I do know, he said as they walked together through London. I'm done with Hallows, Horcruxes, and anything to do with splitting souls or cheating death. Some boundaries aren't meant to be crossed. Even accidentally. Hermione teased gently. Especially accidentally, Harry laughed. From now on, I'm living one complete life, with one complete soul. The morning sun warmed his face as they walked, casting no shadows behind them. Months later, Harry stood atop the astronomy tower at Hogwarts, watching stars emerge in the early evening sky. The school year had begun again, and at McGonagall's invitation, he'd come to speak to the defense against the dark arts students about his experiences. Footsteps sounded behind him, and he turned to see Ginny approaching. Thought I'd find you here, she said, joining him at the railing. Feeling nostalgic? Reflective, he corrected. It's been exactly 6 months since we performed the ritual. She nodded understanding. Any regrets? About giving up the power? Harry considered the question seriously. The reintegration of his soul had indeed cost him the enhanced abilities the Horcrux had provided. His magic had returned to its normal strength, exceptional by ordinary standards, but nothing like the overwhelming force he'd briefly commanded. None, he said finally. That power came with strings attached. It wasn't really mine. And your decision about the Aurors? Harry smiled. After months of consideration, he'd declined Robards' offer to return. Instead, he'd accepted a different position, special consultant to both the Auror Office and the Department of Mysteries, focused on understanding and countering dark magic. It feels right, he told her. I'm still helping, still fighting dark wizards when needed, but on my own terms. With room for other things in my life. Other things? Ginny raised an eyebrow. Harry turned to face her fully. You know, important things. Like having time to properly court the most talented chaser the Holyhead Harpies have ever seen. She laughed. Is that what you've been doing? I thought you were just hanging around because you like my cooking. That too, he admitted with a grin, pulling her closer. The choice he'd made in Shell Cottage, to reject the power of his Horcrux in favor of being wholly himself, had shaped everything that followed. Sometimes, in quiet moments, he still felt phantom echoes of that enhanced magic, like an amputee sensing a missing limb. But those moments grew rarer with time, replaced by the simple joy of living an undivided life. Harry Potter, no longer the boy who lived or the chosen one, but simply himself, complete, unbroken, at peace. As he held Ginny under the stars, Harry recognized this for what it was, not an ending, but a beginning. A chance to choose his own path, to define himself by his choices rather than prophecies or accidents or the expectations of others. An accidental Horcrux had nearly dragged him back into darkness. The choice to destroy it had led him fully into light. Not the blinding, overwhelming light of supernatural power, but the warm, steady light of human connection, purpose, and love. That, Harry decided as Ginny's lips met his, was the greatest magic of all. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.